Andy, good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, it is a good morning. I'm in Paris and, well, I'm quite happy actually because I saw a wonderful Manchester United performance last night and quite unexpected. I didn't think United would win here last year and they did. And I didn't think that United would win yesterday. And not only did United win, but they played really well. And I spoke to Ole Gunnar after the match and he said he felt it was a much better performance than in March 2019. So it was a fantastic performance, 2-1 win. United deserved it. I thought tactically they set up really well, changed the formation during the game, and what a great start for United's very tough Champions League group, which not only features PSG but Istanbul and Leipzig, who are top of the Bundesliga as well.
Will you break down the formation for us? The papers are reporting it's a 3-4-1-2, but obviously that doesn't reflect any of the dynamism here. So Tellez played. Where did he play? Who were the three at the back? Who were in the midfield? How did it work? Was there actually two up front for the whole game? What happened?
Well, I asked Ollie about this, and he said 3 or 5 at the back, call it what you want. So, all right, let's call it a 3 at the back with 2 wide wing backs. David De Gea was arguably man of the match in goal. He made some key saves throughout. What I noticed being in the stadium was how vocal De Gea was and communicating with Bruno Fernandes, who was the captain. So United started with a 3-4-1-2. So the 2 up front were Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial. They didn't always combine perfectly. At times they looked too distant apart from each other. Behind them was Bruno Fernandes. And then in the middle, you had Scott, McTominay and Fred. Alex Telles, making his debut, was on the far left, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka was on the far right. And then you had that 3 of Victor Lindelof, Luke Shaw and Axel Tuanzebe playing his first match since a League Cup game against Colchester United last December. He had the small matter of dealing with Mbappe and Neymar, and he did that admirably. He was one of the best players, if not the best player on the pitch.
Let's talk about him before we go back to the positioning of Tellez and Wan-Bissaka. It was a bit of shock to see him catapulted into the team, but really they don't have that many other options at the moment. So in some cases it's needs must, but it's obviously also an indication that he trusts him to be part of that team. Is he potentially a solution? Are we looking at now this being something that Manchester United decides this gives us defensive solidity and gives us power in midfield? It gives us Marcus Rashford through the middle. There's a lot to like about this formation.
Yeah, and I think Ollie's going to use it again. He said as much in the press conference after the game. Axel's only issue has been injuries. He's had no luck with injuries at all. When he went on loan to Aston Villa the season before last, he was excellent. And everybody thought that last season would be his breakthrough season, but injuries did for him. He's a really nice lad. He came to live in Greater Manchester when he was 4 years old. His family were from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he didn't speak any English when he arrived in Rochdale, Greater Manchester. And not only did he learn English, he excelled at school, got fantastic GCSE results, really good A-level results. He's captained Manchester United at every single age group, including the first team last year against Rochdale, his hometown team. So the only worry, and it has been a considerable worry within the club, has been about his injuries, because United need reliable players. And Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire, for the criticism which they have received more recently, they played every single game. Last season, Maguire did, and Lindelof was one of the top 3 performers in the team. As for the other central defenders, Phil Jones, Marcus Rojo, they've completely fallen out of favour. Chris Smalling has gone back to Rome. So central defence has been an issue for Manchester United, one which has been exacerbated by the number of goals leaked so far this season, 12 in 4 matches, including those 6 at home to Tottenham Hotspur. But there's another option there with Axel, and there's a couple of very, very good young defenders, but they're only 16, 17 in the club's youth system. Then it all starts to look a bit brighter in central defence. I'd also mention Luke Shaw. Some of his best games have been at the back in a 3. He played against Chelsea there in the league last season. And he's got competition now from Alex Telles, and it showed. He seems to have raised his game.
So is it Lindelof comes out of the team and Maguire goes in if this formation stays, and you would expect Tuanzebe and Luke Shaw as the other, so with Maguire as the trio in centre back essentially, or the three defenders?
I wouldn't know how to read Ollie's mind, because if we would have been talking yesterday about Axel Tuanzebe starting and playing as well as he did do, that would have been a complete surprise as well. But yeah, as you say, Shaw can play in a three, Tuanzebe can play in a three. Lindelof was very good last night, and the feeling within the club recently is that Lindelof has played well in the past and he will play well in the future. The issue has been that maybe he's been coasting in some matches, potentially because of a lack of competition, and he's been strongly criticised for that. But he had a top game last night, and United defended well. They moved the line up and down, and you saw the result. It wasn't just Marcus Rashford's winning goal or Bruno Fernandes's penalty. Throughout the team, it was solid, and it was a better performance than last time, but tactically they were able to shift. When Paul Pogba came on after 66 minutes, United shifted from the original formation to going four at the back, and it just worked.
The one consistent move from last Saturday night to last night was the midfield, Andy, where you had Fred and McTominay in there. Is that a real factor in how we're now viewing Lindelof in a different way? How we're even viewing Harry Maguire in a different way after his good performance on Saturday night?
Those two midfielders definitely shield the defence. Fred looks to move forward all the time. Scott McTominay is good at blocking, he's good at tackling, he's full of energy. Physically, he's strong as well. He played the first half last night with one eye, according to his manager, because he lost one of his contact lenses. So even more credit to Scott McTominay for his performance. McTominay and Fred played well against Newcastle, and they deserved to start last night. But again, it's more options, it's more competition. Donny van de Beek was brought in to provide more competition. And had we been speaking towards the end of last season, Nemanja Matic was the man playing there all the time. And now it's Scott McTominay. So it's good that there's competition there. Fred was having a really good season last year. And then he played fewer games when Paul Pogba came back. But Pogba didn't deserve to start last night and didn't do, so it was a bit cool to drop him, but I think it was the right call. And Fred was excellent against Paris last time, and he was excellent against Paris this time.
One of the big reasons why there's been a successful few days for Manchester United is that there's been a resurgence in Marcus Rashford, and there's no question that he's had a poor 2020 post-pandemic, but that's because he's been playing out on the left, Andy, and while he has looked good there in the not-so-distant past, you cannot deny now at this point that a central playing Marcus Rashford is the most lethal version of this attacker.
Not just post-pandemic for Rashford. He had a very serious injury and it took time to come back from. Before that, he was having a really good season last year. And yeah, there's been times where he hasn't played well more recently. And I know he's getting lots of advice with his coaching. I know he's been advised to get closer to the goal, to play more effectively on the turn, because his speed can kill defenders, whereas he's not as effective with his back to the goal. But last night, watching him bear down on that Paris goal in front of that empty away, and that was probably the saddest bit for me last night. Again, the lack of fans. What a great night that would have been, as it was in March 19 for Manchester United fans. But Rashford was really good against Newcastle at the weekend, and the way he combined with Bruno, that goal where United worked from Donny van de Beek starting the move with Fernandes deep into their own half was incredible. It's worth watching again. It is that good. But Rashford potentially, and he's not there yet, is a world-class player. And if he does more performances like that last night against teams of the calibre of PSG, then he'll start to realise that. He's working hard, he's a good professional, he's a great human as well, and he's received a lot of credit for the work he does off the football field. But he'll be judged primarily from United fans by what he does on the pitch, and he's doing really well at the moment.
But do you think then that that Solskjaer will look at what he's done over the last couple of games and still continue to play a front three at times with Martial through the middle and Rashford on the left?
I think Solskjaer's favoured formation is that 4-2-3-1, but some of his best results have come not playing that formation. So he's got more choice now. Let's not forget Edison Cavani has come, and I spoke to a lot of people associated with PSG last night, and they were all glowing about Cavani. And I've spoke to people who know him and know about him a lot more than I ever will. And his school report, if you like, is excellent. So that adds another dimension, because he's a completely different type of player to the fast, young, super rapide, as Thomas Tuchel called them, Manchester United strikers. Again, it's about options. Mason Greenwood hasn't figured for the last couple of matches. He's a young lad. He's going to have ups and downs. He's going to be inconsistent, but he potentially is a world-class talent as well. So it's all exciting. There just needs to be more consistency from Manchester United. It's one thing beating Paris and Newcastle away, and just about anyone away. The away form's fine, but the home form's been pretty dreadful. United lost both the games at home this season and lost them well against Palace and Tottenham. Granted, the manager didn't think that they were fit, but there's big games coming up at Old Trafford against Leipzig, against Chelsea, against Arsenal. United cannot be losing them.
10 successive wins away in all competitions is a remarkable run of form, and when you put it like in those terms, last week before the Newcastle game we were like, oh, how many more defeats is it going to take before we have Mauricio Pochettino? The Manchester United roller coaster is fairly insane, particularly in the early part of every season so far.
Yeah, and I had a real downer last week on the club, and I'm quite optimistic. You might be able to tell from when I speak to you, but the information I was getting out was that the team wouldn't be able to prepare properly for the game at Newcastle. The fitness levels still weren't good enough, and then it's this roller coaster. It turns around again. I can remember speaking to you last December before Tottenham at home. United had some really poor results. They absolutely needed a win and got one, and then beat Manchester City away. And then a few weeks later, lost at a Watford team who'd won 1 in 17. If this team is to become a successful trophy-winning team, the one thing it needs, which it doesn't have, is consistency. They found that consistency away from home. United's record now got stretches back to January. It's at Old Trafford where it needs to come.
Pardon my ignorance, what was the formation against Newcastle that worked at the weekend, and how different was it from what we saw last night?
Last night was different. I'm just checking the formation against
4-2-3-1.
And that's his favoured formation. That's what he tends to go with, and it works for him. But I got some feedback from within the club after that Newcastle game, which was goals were encouraging, but it was 1-1 until the 86th minute, and then there was a feeling that the midfield lost the ball a little bit too easily, and against better opponents such as Paris Saint-Germain, they were more likely to be punished. Well, that wasn't accurate either, because the midfield did play better, but it was United who did the punishing and not the Parisians.
The change in formation last night is also really interesting in the context of Pogba. Andy, like you broke down the formation really well last night. So how does Pogba fit into the 4-3-3 that then develops late into the second half?
Well, he switched it at a key point in the game, because Paris, there was an inevitability I felt last night in the stands, and you could hear all the shouts going on that Paris couldn't be as bad in the second half as they were in the first. And then when Martial scored that really unfortunate own goal, I thought, oh no, just hold on, just hold on. And that substitution in the 66th minute, at first I was a little doubtful, because for the first 5 minutes, Pogba, in the words of someone who messaged me, who knows a lot more about football than I do, said he looks like he's had 5 pints, but he settled down, and he actually put the ball out to Marcus Rashford for the winner. Pogba is more influential for the French national team than he has been for Manchester United. That has got to change. He is too inconsistent for Manchester United. He's been poor so far this season, and we all know that potentially he's a world-class player, and at times he's proved that, such as when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer first came to Old Trafford in those first few months. But when you saw Tottenham's midfield bypassing him and Nemanja Matic, it wasn't good enough, and he's got to get his levels right up. It's all right talking about playing for Real Madrid. Real Madrid aren't going to want players playing as poorly as Paul Pogba's played, but I'd still like him to be good and become successful long-term at Manchester United.
One last thing, Andy, the shirts, obviously it's European debut for it last night. It's still a little bit, and you flick it on, you go, who is this team that's playing in these colours? a few more iconic wins in the shirt, and everybody's like, yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah, I think people don't like change, and Northern English people's definitely, this kit's absolutely terrible. And I saw the reaction when it came out, and then I saw the top combined with the shorts, and I thought, who on earth has thought of this? This looks appalling. It doesn't look quite so bad with plain white shorts. And you're right, kits are remembered by the results in them. And I think I said when I spoke to you at the time, Man United go to Real Madrid, and I said this tongue-in-cheek, and win 4-0 wearing that zebra kit, then everybody will love it. Well, actually, United have been drawn with Paris Saint-Germain. They've gone to Paris, they've won the game, and that zebra kit probably picked up a few sales off the back of that. People who buy the kits, I mean, a lot of kids buy the kits and they love them, although my 13-year-old brother, that was the first one where he paused on it and thought, I'm not being seen walking around Manchester wearing that because, you know, I'm not a wild animal. But maybe you might think slightly differently after having seen those goals last night and that win.
Yeah, once you see the celebrations, then that's all that really matters. Andy, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thank you.